How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. Over the years, I've gotten more and more kind of annoyed with the real, autistic gun guys who just nitpick every little thing, and if you don't use their brand or their setup, they'll just go nuts on you and make fun of it. But they are right about some things. I mean, there are some things that are universally just a better way of doing things. And while I don't always necessarily agree with the way that that group of guys will just jump down your throat and trash people, they are right about some things. But one of those things that I think that they are right about, you should still get specifically for preparedness purposes. And I'm going to tell you why. And before I do tell you why, I'm going to tell you what that item is, which are universally usually terrible as your first choice. And that is any kind of generic holster option. This one I actually found just to give you kind of an example, I found in a storage unit, went ahead and threw it in a box. I think it's Blackhawk brand, but it's just a canvas belt holster with a little bit of a snap retention. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything specifically wrong with this example in terms of a gaping flaw, but they're just vastly inferior to holsters that are specifically designed for whatever gun that you want to carry. The problem is that holsters specifically designed for your gun are specifically designed for that gun only. So obviously any situation where you have any other gun or that particular holster breaks, then your setup is not going to work. And most holsters that are modern Kydex holsters aren't even going to accept your gun if it has additional optics or lights or anything like that unless you already have the one for that setup. Also, most of us have a primary setup that we'd be using in a disaster scenario that's good to go, but we also usually have a bunch of other guns too that don't necessarily have that full setup for those guns. So if you have other people that show up, maybe bring their own weapons, usually aren't going to have good setups. If you come across other people that you want to arm and you don't necessarily have the money right now to get full kit for all that with, retention holsters and all that stuff that you would like to have, it's not necessarily a bad idea to have a couple of these generic holsters lying around. You might be able to scavenge weapons in some sort of crazy scenarios that you don't have you can't just have good holsters for every possible scenario. So while I would never use a generic holster as your primary carry, maybe even your secondary for the weapon that you know you're going to be using, I don't think it's a terrible idea to have a few of them lying around because you can get them at garage sales and stuff cheap, and it's just carrying a gun without a holster is or even trying to, is such a disaster. Forget what you see in the movies about sticking it in your waistband. If you've ever even done that with a toy as a joke, or anything else besides a gun, you know what just an absolutely terrible idea that is, and would just never work. Aside from the fact that it would just be gross and uncomfortable, it's not going to work, and it's incredibly dangerous with any sort of modern striker fire pistol that doesn't have an external safety, because just with the trigger exposed, just reaching in there could plaxo yourself and pop one off. So let me know what you guys think. If you think it's just these things should be utterly avoidable at all costs, or if it's not a bad idea to have some generic holsters, generic slings, things like that lying around that you can get fairly cheap and only use if you were, as a backup to your backup or to outfit someone that you may come across in the future. I think it's definitely handy because, like I said, I've managed to come across some of these basically free often enough. And I do think there's a place for having a few of them lying around in a couple sizes. One for small frame, medium frame, full size. And you don't even need to worry about concealable ones because if we're talking about a disaster scenario, I would mostly be concerned about just regular, different types of outside the waistband belt holsters. But let me know what you guys think. If you disagree, agree, let me know. Post a comment and I'll talk to you guys later.